being an entrepreneur sounds cool, but the reality of building a business is very, very difficult. Every level that you hit, there's a lot of things that suck that you just won't want to do. What you're capable of is on the other side. I don't feel like it.
And if you're committed to what it is that you're trying to do, nothing is going to stop you from getting there. Welcome back to Real Business Owners with myself, Trevor Cowley. Today we have an absolute legend. There's only one legend on this show today, and it's Tyler Todd. So me and Mr. Todd go way back. So I was referred to Tyler from a buddy because, you know, I was a shithead and was getting in trouble. And he represented me way back in the day before any of you guys knew who I was.
Yeah.
On the podcast or prior to any business success. Some of you guys know my backstory in terms of, you know, some of the trouble that I've been in. I've had DUI after DUI, I've been arrested and all that. And Mr. Todd came through for me big time. So back in the day.
Look where you are today.
Hey, time can change things if you actually change with time, you know? So, I mean, dude, 20 years ago, pulling up in a hoopty, I was like, okay, young attorney, I hope he's going to do good. You were obviously cutting your teeth, just somewhat new back then. How many years were you an attorney at that point? Was
Maybe
it
only like one or two in.
one or 2 years in, something like that? But you absolutely crushed it for me. I remember calling, I got a DUI, and then a couple months later, I got another one. The case hadn't even been solved yet or resolved. And I was like, hey, I got another one. He's like, dude, stop.
What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing, dude? How do you get 2 DUIs in like 60 days? And we ended up settling with the prosecutor on the exact same day in 2 different, I think, counties or districts or something like that. So technically, I have 2 second DUIs on my record. The third is considered a felony, and you have to do a minimum, I think, 6 months in jail or something like that. So the second, you have to do 10 days in jail. So I had to do 10 days house arrest on one and then 10 days in jail on the other. And let's just say after that experience, it was like I was buttoned up. The next one would be considered my fourth. They would just have skipped the third, and I would have to do a year. And so after that, that's kind of when I was like, I need to walk away from this lifestyle. It's starting to get a little serious. And so you definitely saved me, because I was like sitting there thinking, I'm gonna have a felony on my record. I'm gonna have to go to jail for 6 months. And then when you called me, you're like, yo, I did a deal with both of them. We're gonna sign on the exact same day so that they don't know about each other, right? And I'm super appreciative of that. And you've had my respect ever since. And then I've watched you, you know, grow and evolve over the last, 20 years or so into the man that you are, the businessman that you are. And it's been kind of a cool journey to watch from the outside. Now I get to see your face very frequently, whether it's on a billboard or on the side of a bus, or I'm like, hey, there's Mr. Todd right there. And so let me ask you this. Initially, did you go into becoming an attorney to defend people, like criminal defense? Was that like the plan?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, I mean, quite honestly, originally I went to law school to impress the girl I was hoping to marry, you know?
Yeah. Did it work?
Oh, no, I don't think, it might have for a brief moment, but no.
Yeah.
Not the...
Thank God.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, your wife seems amazing.
My wife is amazing. And,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things where, thank God for unanswered prayers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But that was originally, but then no, I kind of had a similar experience as you. I mean, as young people, we do stupid stuff, right?
Some more than others.
Maybe a couple more than others, right?
Exactly.
But back in college, we did some stupid stuff, and I found myself in jail too.
Yeah.
And just stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And I had a lawyer that helped me tremendously and helped change my life. And similar to you, I'd looked at that, that's me in the mirror saying,
yeah.
I might have been behind some plexiglass too, thinking I never want to be on the side of it ever again.
Yeah.
Being a lawyer just to help people. That's why I initially went, right?
Yeah.
And then I wanted to be like an agent, to be a sports agent and negotiate.
So are most sports agents attorneys?
I think
their
most are. That's their background.
Yeah. So they can look at contracts and stuff like that.
Yeah. Negotiating and that type of stuff.
Why'd you come back to Utah? What was the draw? Were you raised here?
No, we had just I had family that moved here.
Okay.
I had my parents that moved to Utah. My wife's parents and family had moved to Utah, and so we kind of thought for a hot minute we'll live in Utah for a little while, and then get back to California.
Yeah.
And because we love California, and we just got here, and you know, have kids and time, and you start to create your practice,
Integrate into the community.
That's it.
Yeah.
So
did you want to do criminal defense the whole time after you got out of school and started doing that? Or was it, I mean, to me, as an outsider looking in, obviously, 20 years later, I look at, criminal defense type stuff as like, man, that would be shitty.
Yeah.
To have to deal with like the degenerates of society. I mean, like, I don't mean to be too blunt, but like if you're making those type of mistakes, I was a degenerate. Like I knew that, and that's why I decided to change. If you're going in and out of a courthouse, you're probably not living.
You're probably better than the way that you viewed yourself at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're not wrong, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, again, I always wanted to help people. I love talking to people. I love meeting people.
Yeah.
And there's all types of practice areas in law. There's the transactional side, which is estates and trust and contracts, and I didn't want to do that.
Okay.
Then you have the litigation side, which could be criminal defense, could be personal injury, which is what I do now.
Yeah.
And there's some crossover to criminal defense and personal injury. A lot of times, personal injury firms, even the big ones, will kind of have some criminal defense on their website.
Okay.
And vice versa.
Did they do that more to generate a lead and then refer the lead out?
Or oftentimes than not. Yeah.
Kind of get a kickback.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you're in the courtroom, right?
Yeah.
So with criminal defense, you're in the courtroom. Personal injury, a lot of times in the courtroom.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff, you can get in the courtroom, but more oftentimes than not, criminal defense, you're in the courtroom. And you're actually helping people.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I initially started it, because you're cutting your teeth, you're learning, you're learning the court process, you're getting in front of the judges. And so criminal defense provided an opportunity to do that.
Okay.
But you're not wrong. I mean, after being with the Trevor Cowleys, a bunch of me's. What am I doing?
That probably, a bunch of me's that don't ever change.
That don't ever change.
Like, it's like call after call after call. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah, some of those people that don't change is good to repeat, the business, right?
Yeah. You could basically call it a subscription model. Hey, why don't we just bill you monthly?
That's right.
And just assume that you're going to screw up within the next 3 to 6 months, and, you'll be paid.
And then it pays for itself.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was the original idea. And then over the years, realizing that's
not what you want to do.
Not what I really want to do long term.
Yeah.
But at some point, you realize as a business owner, you have to really kind of niche out.
Yeah. Right. You've had business partners. You have business partners. Like how did some of that stuff come about? Did you I mean, obviously you were solo at one point or working for a firm, and then you got to the point where you were going to do your own thing. Did you do your own thing by yourself at first and then merge with other attorneys and decide to do something together? Or how did that kind of come
good
about?
Question. It's been a journey, to be honest.
Yeah.
So when I was working with you, I'd been with a firm, then I came over to another firm.
Yeah.
And I was brought on as an associate to my second firm. Obviously with the representation, hey, we like what you're doing, and you brought over a big client list, and we're going to make you partner shortly. And then you grow your practice and get to know more people and do more things and referrals, right? You were referred to me by somebody. And so I became a partner in a firm, and then, and it's interesting when you have partners, right?
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask about.
Everyone has their own perspective, their ideas and vision.
Yeah.
And some partners feel differently than others and have ways of doing things or ways of done things.
Yeah.
And so for that, and we were probably together, the group I'm talking about, we were all together probably about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And one partner moved away, another partner was older, another partner was kind of just doing other business, ventures.
Yeah, focused on other stuff.
And I was doing the law.
Yeah.
And we even, went into tech for a hot minute.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and tried to get a little creative with some tech ideas. And
software stuff.
And it was cool. There's some neat things that we did. But I think I always kind of gravitated, one, back to Utah, and then two, to the law.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a lawyer. And so we had a big, breakup, a big divorce.
Yeah. Was it ugly? Or was it pretty...
I don't, yeah, it was a little ugly. I mean, not necessarily.
Depends on who you ask, I guess. You know,
I don't know if it
versus
was fun.
some might have bad blood, and then others are like, this is what needed to happen.
It needed to happen, but when I think the ugliest part of it was the losing of relationships, right?
Yeah,
That was the ugliest part.
Yeah.
Is yeah, when you become friends with people
yeah,
and then you go into business together, or you form friendships after, you being in business together, and then you have a difference of opinion. Yeah, sometimes it's hard and you lose friendships.
yeah,
And so that was probably the ugliest part of it.
yeah,
But it came down to it, to answer your question, it came down to the partners that said, hey, this is what we want to do. This is the vision. This is the route we want to go. And some partners had to do what was best for them and had to do what was best for me.
mm-hmm.
And I decided, look, this is what's going to be best for me and my family. And my priority is my family.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we had to make some hard decisions and let people go.
Was there
and
like
walk away.
a buyout, or did you guys just dissolve the company altogether?
Well, there were a number of moving, pieces and different components to it. So I guess there was kind of a buyout, right?
Uh-huh.
With different, there's technology, there was IRLs that had to be divvied up. There was client lists that had to be.
Professional divorce.
It was a professional divorce.
So you had to look at everything that had been built over that 10-year period and say who's taking what,
and who wants this asset, who's entitled to that asset, who's and so yeah, that we had on real estate a number of things that had to be figured out. So it was a professional divorce.
Yeah.
And it was ugly, but it was mostly amiable, and we got through it. And so we went into law in 2021.
Yeah.
And I realized that, and we had been doing primarily pure personal injury before that point for 5 or 6, 7 years. But a number of people just didn't know that we did it because we were doing all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
Hence the niche, comment. And so once we decided to say, look, this is all we're going to do, pure, and I wanted a brand that people knew that's what we did. And there's no question in my brand what I do.
Yeah.
Injury law.
Yeah.
And so I have two partners. I have some, I'm the primary owner and of the business, and I have some smaller partners.
Some equity partners. So what advice would you give to somebody about business partnerships and in terms of how to make them work?
Well,
or maybe if somebody's in a bad one right now.
Yeah, if you're in a bad one, don't wait, get out. That's what I would say, right?
Yeah.
If it's bad, it's toxic, and there's not, it's like a marriage.
It usually doesn't get better.
It usually doesn't.
The resentments only grow. Like, it's like you could sweep it under the rug
for only so long.
My guess is there was probably issues going on prior to that mark, right? And it was like resentments, conversations happening and being like, then just you kind of like stuck it out for an extra 2 or 3 years when you could have started
You're spot on.
your firm 2 or 3 years earlier and been 2-3 years ahead of time,
But my biggest regret about moving forward was not doing it sooner, to be honest.
Okay.
I should have done it years ago.
Yeah.
But, I consider myself kind of, loyal friend. I was kind of mediating between everybody, trying to keep everybody together, keep everybody happy.
Yeah.
Trying to understand perspective from each partner.
You were trying to take what you thought was the noble path and you utilized your loyalty over logic in that situation.
And the advice of my wife.
Like, hang it out. No. Yeah. Women are emotional creatures too, and so they're probably, my guess is there was relationships, obviously, with spouses and, everybody knew each other, trips together, the kids were integrated with each other. That's also a huge part of it, right?
All of that.
That's what makes it so difficult. It's like you look back on trips that you've taken and then there's pictures and the kids are friends with each other's kids. And it's just like, all of this is going to have to go.
Change.
Even for my kids.
Right.
They're not going to know those people as that
there was a
girl
lot
is
of
any-
change and so
Yeah.
and unknown. And so I think a lot of us, right, you're scared of the unknown, you're scared of change.
Yeah.
And so even though and people are telling you, particularly your wife, hey, you got to make the move.
Yeah.
Either one, you don't trust it or you're scared of it.
Yeah.
And that's where you just have to take the leap of faith and do it.
Yeah.
And so I would say if you're in that situation, just do it.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's like marriage, right? I think in my opinion, a successful marriage is when both parties are working at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You're going to have bumps in the road,
The valleys.
peaks and valleys, right?
Yeah.
But if both people are committed to work at it, you can have a successful marriage, and that's
Yeah.
partnership.
Yeah.
If both parties or partners or all partners are willing to like pull the cart,
Yeah.
and maybe in different ways, right? Then I think you can have successful partnerships. But
Mhm.
if one partner or other partners are not willing to do their job, and they just want to go different ways, then you just have to say, look, I respect that. Hopefully you respect my decision to go a different way, and you just cut it.
Yeah.
But if everyone has the same vision and everyone's on the same page, then I think partnerships are valuable,
Yeah.
because, you can do it on your own, which is fine. But a lot of people like the team environment. I hear it all the time
Yeah.
from lawyers that want to come over,
Yeah.
or solos that are on their own.
Yeah.
I just want to work with people.
Yeah.
I'm tired of being home alone or doing my own thing.
Yeah. The solitude is kind of driving them crazy. They want to be and I would say that that's true just in general for human beings,
Yeah.
right? Is they want to be a part of something, right? And so if you're a business owner and you're operating a business, what are you really creating for somebody to be a part of? Do they feel a part of something? Or do they feel like it's a job that they just don't want to go to? We've had people take pay cuts before, it's not much, like a couple bucks an
Sure.
hour or something, being like, I just want a better environment because of their mental health. They want to actually look forward to going
to work.
where they spend a third of their life.
Absolutely. It's like when you like a mattress, right?
Yeah.
They sell the mattress salesmen are like, you're
Yeah.
spending 8-9 hours a day or 7 on this bed, so you better buy a damn good mattress.
Yeah, exactly.
Same type of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Better have damn good partners.
Yeah.
And
an environment when people want to go.
So they were all cool people. You vibed with them. Everyone was cool, but it was just time.
Great people. It's just time and different directions, different visions, and even different cities and states.
Yeah.
And it was time.
Yeah.
And so when you're starting your business and I was like, okay, we're starting a new brand.
Yeah.
You better have a passion and energy
Yeah.
to make stuff happen, right?
Was there like some stuff mentally happening like, oh, I don't really want to start over again? Like, was there any of that mental battle of like, maybe that's why I should try to make this work because I don't want to go out there and start at day one again?
Yeah, a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you put a bunch of time and effort and money into making the previous endeavors work, so you didn't want to like fully give up on that.
Yeah, it's like time. It's like, I don't want to walk away from 8 years, and start back over here. And so sometimes the time that we have invested into things keep us investing time into those things, even though it's probably not the most fruitful thing that you should be doing.
And I had said, I don't know how many people I've advised over the years too, like don't put good money after bad.
Yeah.
Or good time after bad.
Yeah.
And I wasn't following my own advice.
Yeah.
Because I was absolutely doing that.
So hard.
And so there was that. And then what you just said about, am I scared to start over?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because we had a brand that I thought we had worked for years and years and years to establish. I
loved
loved
it.
Good.
I saw your buses and your
billboards. Close to like tattooing that brand, somewhere on my body because I
that was going to be your thing.
That was our thing forever. And so that was the biggest fear.
Yeah.
How am I going to start over? How am I going to establish a new brand, make a new brand? Can we?
It's a big uphill climb again.
And when's the best time to plant a tree?
Yesterday.
10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
The next best time?
Today.
Yeah. And so it got to that.
I butchered that. Edit that out, Nick. I put this in place 10 or 20 years ago. It's just kidding.
That was brilliant because that's what a lot of people are scared about that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And should I have started this 20 years ago? Absolutely. But it got to the point where it's like, okay, it's got to be now.
Yeah.
And we said, look, to partners
Yeah.
and even staff, because I lost some great staff members that had been with me for years.
Did they go with the other people or just decide to be like, I don't want to be a part of the divorce, I'm going to go somewhere else? A little bit of both,
A
maybe?
little bit of both.
Yeah.
And a lot of it too was just the energy.
Yeah.
Wait, you want to do this? You want to grow offices and go next level and take it to different states?
Yeah.
We don't have the energy for that.
The vision was too big. It was just like, I like the small town community.
We're comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't have the energy, stress levels for this.
Not everyone wants to push that cart up that hill.
That's right.
You know?
And I said, that's fine. And that's fair. One, if there's family members or allegiances that you have to honor, that's fine.
Yeah.
If it's a stress bandwidth issue, that's fine.
Yeah.
But we're doing it.
Yeah.
And so we launched it, and it's been, full force ahead. And
did it take a bunch of money to do that? Or like, did you have to go, because starting over, you're cutting off, some form of income that had been built up that was probably decent, to then go start over, which means usually you have to dig into your back pocket a little bit or cut some checks in order to build a new brand. So was there, some years there, or the first year, where it was just like a lot of money going out to try to establish yourself more so than coming in?
Yeah,
and
to
it's
some degree.
kind of stressful.
To some degree, and for sure, right? I mean, but you have to, if you're going to be, especially like in the injury world, if you want to be a player in the injury space, you're going to have to spend money.
Yeah.
And it is scary, but you have to just
cut the check
and take the leap of faith.
Yeah.
Now, it's not just spending money.
Yeah.
You better have good relationships,
you
kind of have to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Look, I follow all of the big injury lawyers across the country and
just kind of keep an eye on what's
keep
going
what
on.
they're doing, follow what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's not a 2+2 equation, but it's pretty damn close.
Yeah.
And so, I think, you don't have to totally reinvent the wheel, and you have to be unique, and you have to be you, and you have to try to like think outside the box. But the box is the box because it works.
Yeah.
And so, that was one thing too that I said, look, I know you're part of masterminds and connected with people all across the country, which I'm super impressed with.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to be the Dan Newland of Utah.
Yeah.
I want to be the Morris Bart, and I want to be the Morgan and Morgan of the Mountain West, or Lerner and Rowe.
Yeah.
And I know all of them.
Yeah.
And they're impressive in what they've done, with their practices. That's what we're going to do here in Utah and through the Mountain West.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So advertising wise, for my mastermind members, I did like a little, what I call a micro module, kind of breaking down, expenses and that are kind of normal for businesses. Like a lot of people, well, how much should I be spending on marketing? Like what's the percentage? And a good number that's like kind of the average number is 10% of the revenue that you generate should be spent on marketing, right? And so if you have the goal to grow, if somebody doesn't have the goal to grow, I mean, sure, if you do $1 million a year, you can probably just keep your same business and do $1 million a year. But if you have intentions of expanding and growing, you need to be investing into the area that's going to help you do that, which is marketing, right?
My number is 25%.
25%. Yeah. Well, obviously you're being aggressive.
Right.
Do you believe that that's probably more so a normal number for the industry that you're in as well?
Yeah, and I was going to say that, follow up with that.
Yes.
Because 10%, I think that was probably...
It's kind of a normal or average business. Every industry is going to be different.
And the injury practice is different than most, right? Our PPC click on Google is more expensive than anything out there.
Oh, I bet.
It's more, I mean...
everybody's fighting for it.
Everybody's fighting for it.
Because they're looking for that, $1 million case or whatever it is. Because you might get 10 small, you never know when the home run's going to happen.
That's right. So I understand, and I hear the numbers from our SEO team, and but I hear that, an average click cost for like a plumber, let's say, is like $5.
Yeah.
Or a landscaping, and, might be $2 or $5.
And it might take you 10 clicks to get a lead.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so you're not going to get a lead for
Right.
$10, but it might be $100 because you got, you know, a 10% conversion in terms of your clicks.
That's
right.
Our average cost is around $400.
Yeah.
So
Per click
per
or,
click.
yeah.
Per click.
So you could spend thousands of dollars just to acquire one client.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then you have to look at same type of thing with most businesses. You have to look at your average acquisition cost.
Yeah.
And
the average case value and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so for us, you know, and we are being aggressive in our growth strategy. So that's why, to me, I have to do 25 to 30%.
Yeah.
Just to know that it's pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of it of, hey, look, we're going to invest in ourselves. This is the process. And I've never heard this before, but you know, you mentioned the billboards and the buses and whatnot before. I think in our world, and I think any business world for that matter, to be honest, I look at those as validation points.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're crucial to growing a business.
Validation is in terms of just name recognition. Maybe if they then Google it and it's some sort of subconscious programming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if they hear my name,
yeah,
or they hear Trevor Cowley says, hey,
yeah,
my buddy Tyler Todd or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they say, well, you know,
I've seen that guy.
My mom is suffering from paralysis from this accident. Like, how do I know he's legit? I mean, he might be a friend or it might be his brother-in-law. How do we know? Right.
Yeah.
But then they see my billboard. Then they see my bus. Then they go to my website. Then they see my digital ad campaign on.
As many points of contact that you can have.
And so that referral,
Yeah.
right, or that connection, original connection, becomes validated by all of those different touch points.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, maybe he is a good lawyer.
Yeah.
And at the very least, I should give him a call. And that's why when I tell my receptionist, a lot of people, I think, look at receptionists as, it's reception. I remind my receptionist, it's the most important job
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Not the most important.
The first point of contact with the business.
So,
you know, what's that experience?
So when they call, they better know that I just called the right place.
Yeah.
Because of the
interaction,
knowledge, the experience, the comfort level.
Yeah.
And then when they get on with one of us, I called the right place.
Yeah.
Right.
I can imagine back in the day if somebody was, you know, prior to the internet, when all the attorneys would buy the back page of the phone book for $20,000 or $200,000 or whatever, or if you're going to flip through the pages, and now it's Google, you know, is flipping through the pages in terms of injury attorney, St. George, Utah. You know, if they've seen a name over and over and over and over, something's going to naturally make them gravitate towards that name and click on it. The more often that they've seen it, the more likelihood that that's just what they're going to choose, whether they know why they're choosing it or not. You know, it's just the way that the brain works. It's a frequency thing. The more frequent we see a name, and then when we need the service, that's going to be the one that's just going to magnetically pop out and be like, I'm clicking on that one. I'm going to call that one.
You've heard it, top of mind, right?
Yeah,
top of mind awareness, TOPA,
yeah.
right? So we've heard that before. And yeah, so I think you're absolutely right. And that's why I call it validation points, because it's whether it's top of mind or you're being validated, because for the injury lawyers, you know, they don't need us unless they've been injured and they're actually, okay, now what? Mom's in the hospital, dad's in, child's been run over.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't need you until they need you. But when they do, hopefully
it's a serious situation too.
More
hopefully that interaction
is
pleasurable as it could possibly be. Insurance. Let's talk about insurance for a second. Like, most people just going to get the cheapest insurance, you know, like that's
what we see generally. That's what we see.
Yeah. I mean, that's just naturally a human being, because you're like, oh, this, you know, it's a just in case thing. And you really have insurance because you're forced to have it. Right. And so it's like, well, I don't even really want to have it. So what's the cheapest option that I could possibly get? Like, what's some of the repercussions, like some of the negative things that you've seen because of people trying to go the cheapest that they possibly can? And what's like, should they be buying the most expensive insurance that they could possibly afford?
Yeah, good question. And I do see that a lot. In fact, I was in a mediation the other day up in my Orem office, and my Orem office is right on State Street.
Yeah.
Busy road. You know, thousands of cars passing by.
Probably have a big sign.
We do. We do. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
They put it up on the office building, and they illuminated it at night. I'm like, it was like glowing to me. It was like heaven. It's awesome. But anyways,
Brightest bulbs possible, please.
yes, please.
I want this to be the North Star for somebody that's
1,000 lumens, whatever it is,
exactly.
or 1,000,000 lumens. But we were talking and we were watching these cars go by.
Yeah.
And the discussion, we just had this conversation.
Yeah.
With this client. I pointed outside. I'm like, look, most of these people either one have the minimum required by law,
Yeah.
or quite honestly, most of you don't even have it.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, I would bet. This was her comment. I would bet most people are driving with no insurance. With the state of the economy, how expensive interest rates, like just cost of living is super high.
Yeah. Debts that are here by credit cards.
Absolutely.
The mortgage default rate is
so how many people are taking that risk of saying, look, I can't afford that right now.
Yeah.
You don't get in accidents very often.
Yeah.
I don't get pulled over very often. So what are they're weighing their risk of even paying insurance.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I would say yes. I see that too often. Minimum required and they're shopping, and I get it, right? Financial restrictions and cost of living is nuts.
Yeah.
Then I have a radio show, and I say, the people that are listening to my radio show, if you're doing that, but you're still going through the Starbucks, right? Or Swig every day, or whatever it is.
Yeah. You still got your guilty pleasures that you're splurging on, but you're skimping.
But you're skimping on your insurance.
Yeah.
So you can't control, you and I can't control what someone else is doing.
Yeah.
In regards to their insurance they're purchasing or not purchasing. Yeah. But what we can control is we all have the opportunity to buy uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage.
Okay.
And in Utah, we're a PIP state. So we're one of 13 states that have PIP, personal injury protection.
Okay.
So in Utah, we're a no-fault state, which means in the event of an accident, regardless of fault, your insurance company pays first. And that's personal injury protection, okay? The minimum required by law is $3,000. So I would advise anybody listening and watching the show, if you're in Utah or another PIP state, and there's 12 others around the country, make sure you have higher than the minimum required by law, okay? If you don't know whether you have uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage, talk to your agent.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And get it. Okay.
What is that, like an extra $50 a month, $100 a month, or something like that?
Yeah, depending on who your carrier is, and I would advise people to shop.
Yeah.
Shop people are like, I've been with State Farm for 30 years. I'm like, well, is that the best deal?
Yeah.
Is that the best coverage? Well, I don't know. Well, make a phone call. You can do it online now. You can do it on the app. Get a quote within minutes. Geico, right? Save 15% or whatever it is.
15% in 15 minutes or less.
Yeah. So, I mean, I hate insurance companies, but their marketing is brilliant.
Yeah.
So I would say shop it and get good uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. Okay. Because if you get hit by somebody that has a minimum policy, and just down the road in Vegas, I think it's 15,000.
Yeah.
California, 15,000. And we have a lot of people that travel to California for Disneyland or whatever, the beach or whatever it is.
So what you're saying is if somebody gets in an accident and somebody has the minimum, the most in some cases somebody could get for an injury is like $3,000?
Well, that's the PIP.
Okay.
So let's say now the minimum in Utah for liability is $30,000. That just changed January 1.
Okay.
25. So let's say it's a policy purchased in January of 25. And they have the minimum $30,000, and you don't have underinsured motorist coverage.
Yeah,
the maximum you will get is $30,000.
So in some cases, you've probably seen. I know, or I guess I shouldn't say I know. I've heard. In some situations when people are underinsured, what ends up happening is they'll cap out the insurance. So let's say in this case it's $30,000. And then they can go after you as an individual if you have assets or you have money in the bank, so they'll take the money from the insurance, but if they want $100,000, they might come sue you for 70,000 or 200,000 or whatever, the actual person that's.
Well, typically, if you're going to go after the person, you're not going to take that $25,000 or $30,000.
So when you take that money, you're basically signing something saying that it's settled.
Correct.
So if you don't take the money and you want something more, then now you're suing the individual.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And that's a challenge. And we look at those scenarios, but that becomes a challenge because more oftentimes than not, if that individual has a minimum policy,
they don't have money.
They don't really have assets to pursue.
So you could sue them for $200,000 and maybe win, but when are you going to see it?
Right. And they could also then look at filing bankruptcy.
Yeah.
They file bankruptcy and that civil claim goes away. So you have to weigh that, which more oftentimes than not, if they don't have assets and it's not worth pursuing them individually, then you take your 25 or 30, right?
Yeah.
And when I say 30, it's because we're a PIP state, your carrier is probably paid the $3,000 or whatever your PIP coverage is. And then by statute, by law,
the other one pays 27.
No, that statutory right of reimbursement for your PIP carrier gets waived. So technically it'd be like a $33,000 recovery.
Gotcha.
Right. That's why I say make sure you have good underinsured, because you take that 30 from the liability carrier, third party, and then make a claim against your first party policy, your own carrier, for underinsured. And then people are like, wait, I'm going to sue myself or sue my own policy? Well, yeah, that's why you have insurance.
Yeah.
So I would say, a safe amount is $100,000, maybe $250,000.
What's the biggest case that you've seen that you're talking $500,000, million?
In what regards?
Just
settlements?
In terms of settlements, yeah. Like if somebody has really, really good insurance, or like what is there a ceiling? In terms of what you can, like if somebody has great insurance, is it like 30's the minimum, but if they have great insurance, 50's the max, or 250's the maximum? Like,
well, a lot of times people will have like a 250, 500. That's like a decent policy, or a 500, 1 million policy. Okay. When I say 500, 1 million, it's 500 per person, 100 million per accident.
Gotcha.
Okay. So if you have 5 people in the car,
it could be divvied up 200 each or something like that.
And that's where sometimes it gets complicated, right?
Yeah.
Because
depending on the injury of each individual too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you have a 30-65 policy, then you're going to divvy up 65,000 amongst a group of 5 people that are severely injured.
Plus the attorney's got to get paid too.
Plus the attorney's fees and costs and medical bills and all those things. So a 250, 500, I think is a good policy.
Yeah.
Maybe 500, 1 million, and then you can buy umbrellas. And oftentimes people will have umbrellas, and you can do like $1 million in coverage, an umbrella, $5 million in coverage. So if you have a home with equity, if you have assets, you have a business, then I would definitely look at buying an umbrella.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So what about business owners that have vehicles in terms of under their business name?
Well, you want to make sure it's a business name and the trust, but then also now whether they can come after that, right? Because if you've talked to a business lawyer, you want to make sure that your assets are protected and there's you can't pierce corporate veils, right?
Yeah.
But if you have on your own policies, work trucks, you're gonna have commercial policies.
Yeah.
And I think the minimum commercial is $1 million.
Okay.
So, but insurance companies fight, man. That's why we have jobs.
Yeah.
So even though I make a claim and I think it's $1 million claim, the insurance companies are going to say, "Oh, you're crazy."
So what's the difference between different injury attorneys then? Like, for instance, what makes one better than the other? Is it just how they present the case, similar to like a criminal defense, like in terms of this is why we believe that, and it's just kind of more the presentation of
if they
justifying it?
If they do pure personal injury and that's all they do, and that we have a few here in town, we have several in Utah. They're good. They're good lawyers. They're good firms.
Yeah.
And I would say I feel comfortable saying if someone were to call me like, what's the difference? Well, not much.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's personality. Sometimes it's preference. Sometimes, that.
That's why being top of mind matters.
Yeah.
Because there's not a big, huge gap.
If someone were to say I'm with so-and-so, I'd be like, cool. You're in good hands.
Yeah.
Don't worry about coming over to me. Now, some firms are more willing to file suit and take cases through litigation and take it to trial than others. And so that I would definitely look at whether that firm is willing to do that.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because like a lot of cases do settle,
Yeah.
and that's fair. But you have to know the litigation process
Yeah.
in order to make sure that you're maximizing the value for your clients.
Yeah.
So if I get an offer pre-litigation, pre-suit, and I think it's garbage, then I'm going to file suit.
Yeah.
And we're going to take that through the depositions and interrogatories and all the discovery phase and all those things and say, look, we're putting our lawyer hats on. We're taking this to trial.
Yeah. Usually they retract and then come back and settle after that?
Always.
Or...
Always. Now, we have several cases where they're like, no, we think we have a winnable case. And we're like, great,
let's
let's
go
try
fight
this
it
sucker.
out. Yeah.
Fine. Put your money where your mouth is.
Is there insurance companies that are just kind of like certain ones that maybe people should stay away from that don't really protect their client as much or pay out as much, even in deserving cases? Or is it tough to say that? Or
Not necessarily.
No,
State Farm's generally the worst. I mean, they don't like to pay claims.
I've heard that.
Auto Owners is doing that right now.
Yeah. What's one of the better ones that seem to be pretty fair? I mean, obviously they're going to fight still, but
well, I was gonna say Progressive.
Yeah.
But I've had to file multiple UIM complaints recently against Progressive.
What's that?
And that's when I go and make an underinsured motorist claim.
Okay.
On behalf of their clients, right?
Yeah.
They're insured.
They have it.
They have Progressive.
Yeah.
We've gotten the limits of liability from the at-fault carrier, and then we say, okay, Progressive, we think this claim is worth more than what their limits were, and they've rejected it. And I've had to file multiple against Progressive, and then Progressive's like, we pay fair claims. Oh, do you? Well, I've just filed like literally 5 lawsuits.
Fair is in the eye of the bowl. Depends on what side of it. Fair to who? Progressive?
Oh, that's not exactly. This adjuster is like, that's what this case is worth. I'm like, really? Send me your crystal ball.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had one. I don't have one.
Yeah.
That is the hard part with what we do, because nobody knows what a case is worth until you actually do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you and I have mutual friends with it where they've been in, pretty catastrophic accidents.
Yeah.
And the at-fault party had the minimum policy, and our friends had the minimum underinsured policy. And
do they get stuck with the bag then, in terms of if the medical bills are way, way greater than what they receive, then they're just stuck at that point?
They are.
Huh.
Now, we can go back and negotiate, right, and say, hey, there's emergency Medicaid options, there's other things you can do, and we can go back oftentimes and negotiate the medical bills down.
Yeah.
To say, hey, look, because with health insurance, a lot of people have health insurance. When your health insurance pays when you've been involved in an accident, well, guess what they say? Oh, you got money? You want to be reimbursed. And they have a right to reimbursement.
I have
everybody
insurance.
Everybody, you don't know that.
I don't have health insurance.
No? Well,
I what I do is I do the Christian healthcare.
Okay.
Ever heard of that?
No.
Okay.
Like a monthly subscription type of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like $400 or $500 a month for my family, and what they do is they cover you up to $1 million. So it's almost like a group that comes together that pays into a pot, and then they divvy it out depending on who actually needs it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's Google Christian healthcare. So I was a skeptic because I was like, okay, too good to be true.
Right.
We get regular insurance over here for $1,600 or $1,800 a month, but we can get this type of policy for $400.
No-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. And so then we had our last child, and I was like, this is going to be interesting. Let's see if they actually really do what they say they were going to do. And we submitted everything and got 100% back.
No kidding.
100%.
So you kind of have health insurance, just a different way and different model, which is totally
trying to get creative with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious whether they would have, if you were involved in an accident, and they did pay bills, whether they would have a right of reimbursement, what they would do.
Well, from my understanding, it's and again, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't say for certain, if somebody's like listening to this and been like, oh, Trevor said, half of what Trevor says is Trevor's opinion. They're actually 99%. And sometimes his opinion is accurate. And I'll let you guys decide. But in a situation like myself, I have money, right? And from what I understand is if there was something that happened and it was like 200 grand, I'm able to pay that. And what they depend on, again, from my understanding, and I'd have to look more into it, is when you have medical bills, they do cash discount. Hey, if I could pay you 100 grand right now, will you knock that 200 grand down to 100? And then from there, you would turn in that receipt, and you would get your 100 back, right? So
to your Christian healthcare,
to the Christian healthcare,
yeah.
right? So what they're trying to do, from again, can't make it clear enough, from my understanding, is they do want you to pay and try to get the cash discount.
I see.
And then turn in those receipts and get the reimbursement. So we paid for our child, and then we turned in those receipts and we got 100% back.
Gotcha.
Last question I want to ask you, chiropractors.
Yeah.
I've heard that it's actually considered a bad thing that if you see them frequently and then you get in an accident and then you have to see a chiropractor and they're like, dude, they have a history of already going to a chiropractor. Why would we pay for their chiropractic care for this injury now when they've been doing it? Is that accurate?
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, for sure.
So they throw that against you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No question. Insurance companies, like I said, I hate insurance companies.
Yeah.
We have to have them, right?
Yeah.
Required by law. Okay. But yeah, the insurance companies will always fight.
Yeah.
Regardless of what people think out there, they don't just write blank checks.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why we do have jobs.
Yeah.
And they fight everything. And two ways they fight are, one, they say it's not our fault.
Yeah.
Right. You caused the accident, or you have some apportionment of fault causing the accident.
Yeah.
They don't just willy-nilly accept it. Now, sometimes they do, right? If it's
very rarely, they're like,
if it's my rear end impact or so obvious and there's footage of, running a red light, whatever.
I rear-ended one of my employees once.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I bought his car from him.
Did you make a claim on your carrier?
No.
No? Did you pay him for his injuries? Was he injured?
No. It was small, but it was like a Scion.
It was small.
It was a Scion.
Was it small?
It was. I mean, it crushed the Scion in the bag.
Not small. To me, not small. Already not small.
But I was like, looking at his car, I was like, bro, I could buy this from you right now. Like, I'm like, dude, have you been thinking about we pulled into the McDonald's park.
Did you pay him off or something? Would you give him like a promotion?
No. I was just like, dude, I don't want to get a ticket and I don't want this to go on my insurance. So I was tripping. And so,
sure he wasn't hurt?
No, he wasn't hurt. He was fine. Just a little neck injury. He just had a neck brace on for a month. No big deal. No,
he should have called me.
He did. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Trevor, let's get him. No, he was fine. He was fine. But we pulled into the McDonald's parking lot and I was like, looking at this car. I was like, well, how much you owe on that car? He's like, oh, I just barely paid it off. And I was like, sweet. I was like, how much do you want for it? He's like, I don't know. I said, I'll give you a ride home tonight. We'll keep it parked here. I'll just buy the car, whatever number you get me tomorrow. And it was like $5,500. So I just brought a check in for $5,500. He was wanting to get a new car.
You are exactly who we warn everybody about.
Yeah.
Do not
the smooth talker.
Fall for that.
The smooth talker.
You call the police. Yeah. You make a report. You don't buy into that stuff.
If Trevor hits you.
Yeah,
don't let him talk you out of it.
Totally.
Thanks, Xavier.
Totally.
For letting me buy your car.
Well, that's because had you made a claim, when it would have, it would have affected you, right?
Yeah.
Of course it does. But your carrier would still have fought it.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Yeah.
And then like back to your chiropractor question, yeah, they minimize. They say, okay, yeah, we take responsibility. We accept, fault.
Yeah.
We didn't cause those injuries.
Yeah.
Your person's been seeing the chiropractor for years.
Yeah.
And
I ask because I see a chiropractor weekly.
But
that's more for my running and trying to keep my body in line and
automatically
stay healthy.
So your social media would probably kill you.
Based upon the fact that they're like, hey, he's probably personally injuring himself every single day with a half marathon. like those knees issues, knees and back or neck injury, when I'm like stiff like this running for 2.5 hours every single day, they're like, I don't know.
Yeah, your knee injury from a car accident probably wouldn't hold up great.
Yeah.
But that's what they do. So they minimize everything.
They look at that stuff though.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
They'll check out you on social
1,000%.
and try to find as much evidence as they possibly can to use against you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they all do it. So when you asked earlier, like, is there a better one than others? Not necessarily, because they all do it.
Yeah.
They all try to minimize anything you're going through.
Yeah.
And that's why we have jobs, because we're telling your story.
Yeah.
Look,
what's the average injury? Like, is it from my understanding, it's like a third? Is that pretty normal?
like for injury fees?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 33% or something like that.
Now it's gone up.
Has it gone up?
I think most people in Utah and Vegas are charging like 40%.
Gotcha.
Pre-litigation.
Yeah.
And then if you have to file suit and do a bunch
Take
of
all
like,
this extra time.
it goes up to like 50% generally.
Gotcha.
And I think we're at 35%.
Yeah.
And then 40%. Did you hear about the Starbucks verdict? 50 million just got hit
For
like kind of like
hot coffee type
coffee
shit.
type stuff. Yeah, same type of thing.
Somebody just spilled it on themselves, pretty much.
Yeah, it's actually it's on. There's video of it that she put the tray through the window. I think it's a DoorDash driver. He pulls it in, kind of fumbles it. Same type of thing, but
It just burns in the
massive burns, horrible. So pre-lit, they offered $3 million, and then just prior to trial, I think they offered $30 million.
Oh wow!
And then they went to an actual jury verdict, and the verdict was $50 million.
Wow!
Just came down. Now they're going to appeal it.
I might fumble some coffee.
Hey,
with the shaky hands. I got shaky hands after a half marathon, so I get a coffee.
they're going to put some apportionment on you for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
So and be like, well, I was gonna become a porn star, and now I'm disfigured.
Still too, maybe. But no, that was LA County. LA County. So, and so you just have to know, right? You have to know where you are, what your venue is, who your jury is, and they knew they had a good jury, right? So yeah, that's the battle that we deal with.
Dude, it was good to have you come out, man.
Thanks
Good
for
to
having us.
chop it up with you, man.
Yeah.
It's when I see you at the gym or just see you out and about or see your billboard, I always just have fond memories of you pulling up in the hoopty and just kind of the beginnings of your journey to see where you were versus where you're at now. Even the fact that you went out to go start your own firm after, having some roots in the other one just goes to show like you're a long-term thinker, and I think that that's what most people are missing is they think in such the short term. They let their short-term emotions deter them from, big success rather than, understanding that time is going to pass anyways. Like, what are you doing right now to serve the version of you today in 10 years from now or 5 years from now? So to walk away from that, knowing that that's what's best for you, but probably not what's best maybe tomorrow or next year or 5 years, but it's best in 10 years or 15 years. And so that just shows me that you're more of a long-term thinker, more of a big vision type guy, which I totally respect. And I think more businesses need to be playing, not measuring what they're doing now, but understanding the game that they're trying to play, and that in 5 or 10 years, all of this stuff that you're doing right now will pay off. It will be worth it. You just can't think in a month, or the struggle kind of narrows your vision, so to speak, and nobody wants to go down the path of struggling. And they use the struggle that they currently experience to project into the future, like it's going to be like that forever.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
And I've been super impressed with you and what you've done, and obviously where you've come from and where we both come from.
Yeah.
But I'm super impressed with you as well. So I mean that. Just to wrap it up, I wrote down my goals.
Yeah.
1, 3, 5, 10 year.
Yeah.
And I said, this is where I want to be after a year. That's where I want to be in 3. It's where I want to be in 5.
Yeah.
I met 1, exceeded 1. We exceeded 3.
Yeah.
I'm working on 5. And I know where I want to be in 10.
Well, you can't hit a target you don't have.
Right.
And it's easier to succumb to the short-term emotions when you don't know what you're trying to accomplish, right? When you know what you're trying to accomplish, there's going to be the peaks and valleys. Like if you want to stay married for a long time,
Right.
and you're in the darkness and you're like, nah, but I really do want to be old with this person. We're just in the valley, and it's the same thing with just business. Right. And so I've just admired everything that you've done over the last 10 years and what you have done for the community and how you integrate yourself into the community. And I know that you surround yourself with good people. And so, and you're good people. So
Thanks, brother.
I appreciate you
I appreciate
coming out and sharing some time with me and educating people on insurance and business partnerships. Walk away. If it's, I think everybody knows. They know.
Just do it. Trust in yourself.
Yeah.
Trust in yourself and just do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Trust in yourself and do it. And riches are in the niches.
Yeah. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did. Per usual, please rate and review the show. If you've already left a review, leave another one. It definitely helps. And as always, keep kicking ass.